At first glance, all four of these look to be the same word. But let's add the respective hamzas. Now it seems as if we have two of each. But what if we add the didactical marks, or the harakat? We now see that we have four different words, in fact. An, anna, in, and inna. How can each of these be a separate word, and what does each one mean? Welcome back to Arabic with Amina. In today's lesson, we're going to be differentiating all four: an, anna, in, and an inna. For each of these words, we're going to be covering pronunciation, meaning, how to identify which one we're talking about, and examples. We're going to start off with an. أريد أن أراك غدا. From our sentence, we can see the pronunciation. This particle is pronounced as an. أريد أن أراك غدا. From the translation, we can find the meaning. I want to see you tomorrow. So, an obviously translates to the word to. How to identify that we are talking about an, which means to? Well, to help identify the meaning of the particle, always look at the word after the particle. Here in this sentence, it's a verb. Araka, see you. The particle an, which means to, will always precede a verb. And about 95% of the time, that verb will be in the present tense. So, in our steps of how to identify this particular particle, an, it will always precede a verb. And in this sentence, أريد أن أراك غدا, it is in the middle of the sentence. You can also start sentences with it, such as أن تقرأ خير لك. Notice how the word after it is a verb. تقرأ, read. Our second method of identifying this type of particle can be demonstrated in the sentence. قبل أن أذهب إلى الحفلة كتبت واجبي. Before I went to the party, I wrote my homework. Now, notice the word after it is a verb. In Arabic, it is in the present tense, despite the English translation being the past tense. Because if you're going to include a verb after an, it is most likely going to be in the present tense, even if the meaning differs and refers to a past event. Here, the particle an is used with another word to form a two-word subordinating conjunction. That word is qabl, or before. And this is another way we can identify the particle meaning to, an. If we are using a adverb of time, such as qabl, and we include an after it, it is most likely going to be an with a sukun and not a shadda, and the one that means to. This can also happen if we use the word ba'd. So, بعد أن دخل الأستاذ سكت الطلاب. After the teacher entered, the students became silent. Again, the word after an is a verb, and before it is a adverb of time, after. بعد. So similarly to قبل, we can use بعد, قبل أن, and بعد أن. So in the methods to identify this type of particle, it will always precede a verb, and it comes after the words قبل or بعد. So, an is the pronunciation, tu is the meaning. The ways to identify it is it will precede a verb or come after the words قبل or بعد. And the example we had was أريد أن أراك غدا. I want to see you tomorrow. Moving on to in. In is similar to the particle we just had, ending with a sukun instead of a shadda. However, the hamza is with a kasra, so it is in. Our example here is in tudakir tanjah. We can identify the pronunciation from our example in, and the translation would be if you study, you will pass. So the meaning is quite obvious, and this particle means if. And the reason why I chose to explain this particle after we just explained an is because in also precedes a present tense verb. And it's important to be able to distinguish if this is an meaning to, or is this the word in, which means if. So even though it does precede a verb, when using in, there will actually be two verbs after it to fulfill the components of a conditional sentence. So if you study, that's an incomplete sentence, and we need an answer to what if. So the answer is you will pass. تنجح. Even though it does come before a verb, there will always be two verbs after it and not just one. And there are other functions and meanings of the word in, especially when used in the verses of the Quran. But uses outside of the Quran are obsolete and not common, so they are not covered in this video. The only common use of this particle in is the meaning if. And I do have to say this disclaimer because some people like to comment and call me out for this, but that's not the purpose of this video. This video is a simple explanation to differentiating all these similar particles and what they mean the majority of the time. And almost 97% maybe of the time, they will only mean what I explain in this video. So just a little disclaimer before moving on to our next example. إن نلعب جيدا نحصل على الجائزة. If we play well, we will get the prize. So let's work on our methods of identifying that this is in if we didn't know. The word after it is a verb, and so it's either an or in. However, as we can see, we have the verb نلعب, we play. However, there is another verb which fulfills the meaning of the sentence, and that is نحصل, or we will get. So that is how we identify in. Pronunciation is in, meaning if. The ways to identify it is it precedes a verb, but two verbs follow. An example we used was إن تذاكر تنجح. If you study, you will pass. Now let's move on to the word inna. Inna has a shadda at the end, so we are doubling the last letter, unlike the past two particles. So inna. Inna Allah ghafurun rahim. We can see the pronunciation. We're doubling the letter because it has a shadda at the end. So inna. And the translation would be, truly Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. So as we can see here, Inna obviously means truly. However, it can also mean certainly or indeed. They all have almost the same meaning. How to identify this particle? Well, inna introduces a nominal sentence. So the word introduces means it will come at the beginning of a sentence. It's not the middle, it's not the end, it is the beginning of a new sentence. And a nominal sentence means it will never come before a verb. So if you have a look at this sentence, we don't have any verbs in here. This is a nominal sentence composed of mubtada and khabar. And you can check out my video on mubtada and khabar if you would like to know more about that. Moving on to our next example. إنك طالب ذكي. Indeed, you are a smart student. We can see here that inna is actually conjugated to a pronoun. Here it is kaf, which means you. And these particles can be conjugated to pronouns. And a pronoun obviously is not a verb. So that's why inna can sometimes fuse with the beginning of the sentence if it is one of the pronouns that are suffixes. And that's just something to be aware of, just so you don't think that innaka is a whole nother word. It's still inna, it's just connected to the suffix. That's actually one of the ways that you can identify. If you don't know mubtada and khabar, this is one of the ways you can identify this is a nominal sentence and this is inna, is because it can be conjugated. Another thing I'd like to point out is we don't actually have to translate the sentence to indeed you are a smart student. So inna is actually a particle of emphasis. Emphasis is when you're trying to say truly, certainly, indeed, for sure. But it could also just be translated to you are a smart student, because we don't always say that in English when you're talking to someone and they're feeling low and I feel like I'm so stupid or whatever. And like, no, you're not stupid. You're really smart. We're not saying indeed you are smart, but we are still emphasizing the point. So that's why you could also just translate to you are a smart student. Same goes if you were going to say innaha ummi, which means if you translate it with the indeed or truly, that is she is my mom. But you don't actually speak like that. So when I say innaha ummi, I'm just saying it's my mom or she's my mom. Anyways, back to our table. So pronunciation is inna. Meaning is indeed. How to identify? Well, it introduces a nominal sentence and it can be conjugated. One of our examples was إنك طالب ذكي. Indeed, or without the indeed, you are a smart student. So we only have one particle left, and that is أن. Our example is سمعت أن خالد سافر. Obviously, we can see the pronunciation and hopefully heard it as well. It is pronounced as أن. And if we translate the sentence, I heard that Khalid had traveled. So the meaning of أن is that. And not that as in this or that. That which has the meaning of a linking word. It's that when we are using it in English in phrases like think that or believe that, said that, heard that. We're not actually pointing to a specific object and saying that. So how to identify this particle? Well, I just said it's a linking word. So A linking word is obviously going to come in the middle of a sentence because it's linking something. So if we have anna as the link, what is it linking? Well, it's linking a verb before it, such as in this example, سمعت, I heard. So it's linking a verb before it to what? What is coming after it? After it is a nominal sentence. And in this example, that is Khalid سافر. Khalid had traveled. So it is a linking word that comes in the middle of a sentence. It has a verb before it and a nominal sentence after it. Let's take a look at another example. علمت أن القطار سيتأخر. I knew that the train would be late. Let's work on identifying this. So, anna is the link, right? And we said it links a verb before it. So what is the verb in this example? علمت. I knew. And then what is after anna? القطار سيتأخر. The train would be late. That is a nominal sentence. Let's do another example. Let's take a look at this sentence. أظن أنها من باكستان. I think that she is from Pakistan. Something to take note in this sentence is the word anna is conjugated, similar to inna. And that is because we said after anna comes a nominal sentence and not a verb. So if our mubtada is a pronoun that can be conjugated, it will be. So right here we have ha, which means she, conjugated to the word anna. It's not one whole different word, it's just two put together. So our third method for identifying anna is it can be conjugated. Again, anna's the link. Before it is the verb أظن, I think. And the nominal sentence after it is she is from Pakistan. The she is actually conjugated to an, so أنها من Pakistan. So anna means the linking word that. It comes in the middle of a sentence because it's a linking word. It links a verb before it to a nominal sentence after it. And it can be conjugated. And our last example was أظن أنها من Pakistan. I think that she is from Pakistan. And if you want this she of an, in, anna, inna, so that you can reference it anytime you want and make learning Arabic much more easier by having this cheat sheet with you, then you can get this by clicking the link in the description box below. And stay tuned for our next video where we're going to go through some exercises. We're going to take sentences and try to figure out which particle is being used in each one. So it's a little bit type of homework. So make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on that video. If you enjoyed this video, which I'm really hoping you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss out on our next videos, and please do comment and share to help my videos reach other Arabic learners like yourself. See you next time. Arabic with Amina.